Morning, everybody. Thank you for being here. If I look nervous, I am. I have never done this before, but I am very passionate about what I'm going to speak about and have learned the hard way and still learning. So I'm actually hoping I can learn stuff from you all too. So this is very interactive. I'm here to get some talking points or training points, leadership points, whatever's going to help me in the future. But again, my name is Sandy Wells, Sandy Lee Wells, and I work for Ciox Health. I've been with them for 11 years, but I have 42 years experience in health information management. I tell everyone I was one when I started so that, they don't really say, oh my goodness, she's as old as the dinosaurs, because sometimes I feel like that. But the interesting part is I've been managing, leading for years, a whole lot different 25 years ago than where we are today. And I know all of you can even equate to that as well. And trust me, COVID moved it really fast to a whole different level than where we are even 3 years ago. So we're all challenged. It's the year of the Great Resignation, as we all know. And if you all are like us, we're struggling to keep employees, to bring on new employees. We may even bring them on and they never show up. It's just really challenging. How people are surviving, I don't know. I need a job. I like a roof over my head and food on my table. So I would like to see what the trick is to not have to work so I could just go offshore fishing all the time. But that's not going to work for me very well. So we're going to go.
How do you spell the name of your company?
It's CIOX Health. We're a nationwide company. We have over 8,000 employees. I'm not here representing them. I do work for them, but that's fine. I'm here because I'm very passionate about where we stand with getting employees, as is our company. I went to a leadership launch the beginning of May, and that's where my eyes were opened. Prior to that, I struggled with even managing my employees because at my age, I'm used to people who are more like me. And I was 17 when I started this job. I know I said I was one, but I'm telling a story. So I was 17 years old. But as I got older, now I'm the older person, and it's hard for me to understand. How could that be? I'm not that old. But I have 20-year-olds or 25-year-olds coming in on my workforce, and they have skills that I never would have dreamt of at 25 years old because of where we are in technology and everything else. So that's where our challenges are. They expect to sit down and have everything right there. Is that a bad thing? No. But I'm challenged in being able to meet those needs for them because I'm not used to that. I'm going to go ahead and switch to the next slide. On command and control, the old school way of doing leadership, because I said so, don't ask why. And now, how else can we do it? We need to have those interpersonal relationships with our people and make them feel like they're our family, which I tell my people all the time. I have a very small family, but I have a really big work family. And I'm very grateful for them because they're why I enjoy getting out of bed every morning. So we'll go ahead and switch, I think, maybe. Is there something I need to do?
Look at your,
Yeah, there's something on your screen.
something on your screen on the computer.
Oh, thank you. There we go. So the challenges at keeping current employees, yeah, we all know that one. And even bigger challenges is what we're finding. We can't fill vacancies. I have had some vacancies open for a couple of months at some of my facilities, and some geographical areas are worse than others. Even our bigger cities where we should have the volume of people who want to have a job, we're not finding those either. So, Tallahassee's not any better, Mobile's not any better. In fact, they're probably some of my worst ones. Part of it's because of the competition out there to bring people on. As a company, we've had to increase our rate of pay per hour just to be able to look a little bit better and increase our benefits. Before, our benefits were great. Well, I thought so. But they're even better today, which only this past year have we done all of that. Raise the increase. And then one more piece of that is everybody wants to work remotely because there's so many remote positions out there. So our company started doing an on-site differential pay. So, without going into too much detail, it helps to make that pot a little sweeter for those who have to come onto site. Because why wouldn't they want to save gas, money, especially when gas was almost $5 a gallon? So it makes sense, for me. Anyway, So about me, I'm Sandy Wells. I'm a well-seasoned servant style type of leader. I don't like the word boss. I really think it's a dumb word. I like to be considered as, as a leader. I'm here to help. I'm here to serve. What their needs are, it's my job to help them get what they need to be able to do their jobs. So what they do helps me to look better with my boss. And my boss is a vice president of operations, doesn't even live locally, but we have obviously team meetings weekly, and we stay in contact all the time. But for me, I like to have that visual with my people as often as I can, so I'm constantly rotating from facility to facility to meet with them. Again, I have 42 years experience in health information management. I had 45 team members, and that's if I can get everybody onboarded, because that's the challenge. And so my thing is command and control, or trust and inspire. Again, it was my meeting in the beginning of May that I'm like, wow, I never knew. I never thought that I had to change how I do things. Because not that, they say people don't leave jobs, they leave managers. Is that true? I didn't think it was, because I'm the nicest person I know, but maybe not everybody else thinks that, So I needed to really kind of get down on a more personal level with them. I'm nice, I ask them, hey, could you do this? And the expectation is that they say yes, but they don't always do it. We know that too. So let's go ahead and go on to the next one. What is command and control? And I don't want to read this, but this is for you guys, more for the visual. Again, back in the old days, because I said so, was the biggest reason. We told our kids that same thing too. If you guys have children as old as I am anyway. Nowadays, kids tell you what they're gonna do. But you know what? They're building the future for tomorrow, so we've got to move forward with that also. So if any of you guys have smaller children or teenagers, you're probably better off than mine. My kids are all my age already, so my thought is, I'm not learning anything from them. They've moved out of the house, and I have a granddaughter on the way. So I think I'm more challenged that way, because I have younger employees than I have children. And if you have young children, at least you're being able to keep an eye on what the changes are. But authoritative in nature is really what we used to be. And I mean, we all had that, and by looking here, nobody's 18, so we all had that authoritative type of boss, first coming into jobs, and we knew what our job was, and we did our jobs, and we went to work on time. Of course, we all run into that too. It's like, oh well, I'm late, or I'm going to be late. Well, when will you be in? I'm not sure yet, but I'll let you know when I get there. And it's like, holy moly.
That makes it really difficult to even get things done throughout the day, because then are we allowing that to continue? At some point, there's got to be a give and take. It can't just be because I need somebody so bad, I'm just going to put up with it, because then that just becomes destructive over time.
Yes, and we used to say we just needed a warm body. So it was kind of sad that we were hiring people to have a warm body, because we needed a body. Yeah. But if that body isn't going to be a good fit, we're going to lose them. And as HR people, you guys all know how much it costs to bring a new employee on board. We're going to say upwards of close to $10,000 when you do all in, all of the hours of time of everybody being put into that. It's a lot of money. And then for them to not even show up, man, I want to cry. Almost as if it's out of my own paycheck, which it's not. But the whole point of it is that's money you just like, oh yeah, let's just drive down the road and throw out hundreds of dollars out of the car, because it's not going to pay off, So how do we keep people? I have learned one thing, and this is off topic, but I mean, again, this is open discussion. I call that person who's onboarding at least every week, personally. I text them, hey, do you need anything? I'm so excited, and I am excited. I'm excited they're still coming to work, and not decided, oh, I'm gonna go with, with this other company because, they're closer to where I live. But I think the biggest thing is engagement with them. So you wanna engage them,
You can't just assume just because you've told them that they're going to take the initiative to do it, because they're not.
Right. I mean, we have all these things they have to go through, going, getting their I-9, whatever, fingerprints, drug screens, we all have to do all of those things. Working in a hospital, we have labs that we have to get done in order to be there. But sometimes it's like, well, do you need me to come pick you up and drive you to get those? And at that point, you're kind of thinking, this was not really, they're not really on board. So it's almost like, should I go ahead and cut my losses and start, sourcing for a new employee again? Because if they're already this route, chances are they're not going to come on site, or be on time every day, But anyway, I'm sure that many of you have used command and control as your style. But we need to change that. And trust and inspire. There was a gentleman that came, it just went out of my head, Stephen Covey. Trust and Inspire is a book that he did, and I highly recommend it, you guys. It's where I was like, oh my goodness. He came and he spoke on one of the days that we were at the leadership launch. And I'm not here to, kind of tell him about his book or whatever, but the whole point of it is it was very eye-opening. But this is really what it was centered around, and employee engagement and trust and inspire when it comes to how to keep your employees, happy, keep them on site, keep them engaged. We do a lot of crazy stuff that we thought we never would. Instead of just saying 8 to 5, that's your shift, you're supposed to be working. We pull people away from work and try to engage them into crazy stuff like, Throwback Thursday pictures, fancy sock day. I mean, just and a lot of us are virtual. So I have 45 employees. We do it all through Teams. We do pictures and we do team meetings and things like that. But you have to pull people away and let them find some humor and some fun in their days instead of just saying, okay, go out on the floor and this is what your job needs to be, because they need to feel like they can enjoy it, and you've got to embrace that. That's where we are today. We never did that before, so.
We're taking an 8-hour day and putting what into it? If we're taking the time to, give them a break and inspire and everything, are we turning our 8-hour day into really 5?
Not every day, but yeah, there's a couple of hours a week that you're taking just to invest in that person and in your relationship with that person. But guess what? You'll keep them longer. So that's a plus, you're actually investing. And it doesn't have to be every week. It could be once a month. The main thing is that you kind of let them know that you care about them. And if they're pulling up their pants leg and showing their socks, oh, those are cute socks. What do you think about that? That's a whole lot better than, oh, you're not dressed right for this job. You need to go home and change, which obviously we have to do that sometimes too. Yes, Ms. Jen?
And then if you have everybody on site, some of the things that we did were like having ice cream socials and stuff like that, just for the end of the week. We did something, we have a friend who's a McDonald's operator. They do something every Friday.
Oh, good.
The employees, they bring the employees ice cream, or they bring them donuts or things like that to all of their stores.
That's a great idea, something once a week, even if you take turns doing something like that. One of the things that I do, I love the challenge. We all struggle to get work done. Ciox Health, we pretty much focus on a production-based type of need. So if somebody's sitting there and they're just like, I don't feel like working today, and they're pretty much twiddling their thumbs, they're not being productive. We have numbers to keep up with. But what I love to do, especially when it looks like a team needs to have some get up and go, I challenge them. I'm like, okay, I'll buy pizza if you guys can get to this, whatever this is. If you can get caught up to, where we only have 5 left in the queue, I'm buying everybody pizza. You talk whatever their favorite something is, everybody says that the employee morale all of a sudden is like, oh my gosh, let's get started. I'm so excited, So give them whatever that is, whether or not it's whatever you can do it wherever you are. For me, it's like I order pizza and have it delivered to them and, tell them thank you for all that they do, because they do it every day, but every once in a while, you gotta get a little more.
Celebration is the kicker to the wheel of progress, and so you're smart because you're picking a specific thing you wanted to celebrate instead of just like it's too watered down if it's just nothing specific. So that's why that's working.
Yeah, it has to be reachable though, and I'll tell you why. My area supervisor, who's under me, was on vacation, and while she was gone, I was taking over her site, which is Sacred Heart, Pensacola. She pretty much manages the primary Ascension sites. I do everybody else. While she was on vacation, they got backlogged, so I gave them a challenge, but I made it doable, but it wasn't like simple. It wasn't like, oh, we're gonna do it anyway. So I gave them a challenge, they did it, I bought them pizza. In fact, I bought them pizza before they finished the challenge because I could see the enthusiasm, everybody grouping together, and I'm like, you guys got this, I'm just gonna go ahead and buy you pizza. And so last week when Chris was back, I made the challenge. Okay, guys, what can we do? I'll buy you pizza if you can get these caught up. Well, Chris told him what she wanted. And I'm like, oh goodness, that's not doable. You've got to make it tangible. You got to make it able to be met, but with a little bit of a challenge. Otherwise, it's not a challenge at all. But just don't say, hey, you got to have the whole queue cleaned up if they've got 1,000 and that's not going to work. Make it where it can be done. But anyway, what kind of leader would you prefer to work with? Somebody who embraces you, kind of gets on the level and lets you know that you're a human. And two, that what you think matters. Because, a lot of times it isn't. Do it the way I tell you to do it, not the way you want to do it. There's a lot of young people out there that have some ideas that I don't even think about. Their way of thinking, especially with today's society. We use IT, we use computers, we use, Word documents and PowerPoints and Excel, and these people are much better at it than I am. I came in before computers. I know that seems kind of like shocking to all of you, since I am so, youthful, but there were no computers, and I had to learn the computers along the way. We kept track of patient admissions and discharges on a 3x5 card that was put into like a library card box. Some of the old school people will remember that too. So, and then DOS, is what you did for your big monitor computer thing. We used DOS or WordPerfect, and yeah, those are some old school words I'm pulling out of my hat on that one. So anyway, this is where we are today. And you know what this crazy thing is? It's not stopping here. It's going to continue to move forward. So if any of you have 20 years left or even 10 years left to, work and be in the workforce, I'm hoping to work on my 5-year plan. But I can't wait to see where we're going in 5 years. I may be so excited that I'm like, I can't retire now. I want to see the rest of the story. But it's going to continue to move on. We're just going more and more. In fact, even SciOx Health, and not to talk about SciOx, but this is a little sample of that. Release of information currently is done manually, pretty much by people, through a software program, which is great. But we're going digital. We've gone digital at a lot of our sites where a person doesn't have to touch it. It has a computer that actually reads through all of that stuff. And that's just, and I'm not saying that for SciOx, I'm saying that that's where the world's going, so it isn't just SciOx, it's gonna be coming all along the way. Back in the day, remember when transcription was done, or any of you who might be familiar, was done by manual transcriptionist. I did that for many years. And now it's done by a bot, it's done by a dragon, this depends on what you wanna call it. I helped Eglin Regional Hospital get theirs, implemented back in the day. Well, I cut my own throat because then I didn't have a job. I did. I left that job before it changed, but now they don't have transcriptionists. They have auditors, or editors, whichever you want to call it, that goes in and makes sure, help fill in some blanks that maybe the bot or the computer wasn't able to pick up. But we're going to do the same thing, is where it reads patient name and it'll say Sandy Wells, and it'll pick it up to make sure that all of the records belong to Sandy Wells, that kind of thing. So it helps with quality too, of course, but that's where we're going. So are we gonna not have jobs? Probably not, soon. Any questions? Anybody wanna add anything to that piece?
Who's watching, and I'm asking this from the whole room, including you. Who's watching to see the big picture of where this is ultimately headed? It is so easy to get everybody all busy with the daily operations of what we all have to do and all of our different jobs and everything. But who's watching to see where, this is what you were talking about, who's watching to see where we're really headed? Sometimes big things are happening that are not for the best, but it's such a large, gigantic process that no one says anything about it. I mean, literally, guys, who's watching to make sure that what we need is really going to be there when we need it? And the young ones, they don't have the experience to see all, the bigger picture of that things can go catastrophically wrong because they haven't been through it in their own life. So my question basically is, who's watching? Because you got all these, for example, I have people that they for years have had a DUN number and they're doing government contracting work. And somebody decided that instead of using your business DUN number, they're gonna use these unique identifier numbers. There are a significant amount of companies, for some reason, when they are in the middle of doing this transition, they have put these companies out of business because all of a sudden they weren't somehow in the system in the way that the system saw them. So now all of a sudden they don't exist, they don't have a unique identifier number, and now they're out of business. And they have, gone to great lengths to try to solve this problem. And it's not been solved soon enough the companies are now out of business. So this big picture of, the bots being in charge of this and everybody else and releasing information and being in charge of all this, I mean, we've kind of been jokingly watching this since we were kids. War Games, that funny movie we saw way back there, and just all these different things that we see. And it's interesting that many of the movies that we used to kind of laugh at, these things now have come to be. And so who's watching the bigger picture? I mean, obviously NASA and people are doing, because they're already experimenting on what do we do if we see an asteroid come in our direction. But I'm asking you and the whole room, who's actually guarding the whole process to say, where we're headed is about to be not maybe in our best interest as humanity.
Yeah, because Sandy, you said that, as far as, you're gonna eliminate a person or two for all this transcription stuff. Well, any of us that talk to text in our phones can realize that it's not good. I mean, I texted my branch manager this morning about the fact that I heard that there's gonna be a purple M&M. And it came up as M&M the rapper. So she was laughing and everything. So she's right as far as who's watching the quality of this. Because, if you've got a different voice inflection, tone, or whatever, I know they're great computer programmers, but are they picking up on that? And when it comes to this kind of stuff, health information, it's got to be spot on, and you've got to have the right person with the right health, somebody could be diagnosed with cancer that is intended for somebody else.
Yes.
So, you're going to eliminate people, but, as I tell my children, technology is great, but what if it blows up? You got to know how to do it the old-fashioned way.
And we've all had to do that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, let me add one more little thing of what you were asking about. You're right. So for the transcription piece, when that was moving, there were editors and auditors who actually physically looked at those to make sure that that's what it was. Doctors had to also check it before they signed it. Okay, so that was that piece. For us, there is a difference, because believe it or not, a computer will make less errors than a human. You can't take human factor out of it. We call them UADs, unauthorized disclosures. Computers are less apt to do that because it throws anything out that doesn't look like it's right. Mind you, the company has spent a lot of money even getting started to make this happen, but we don't have that issue. Currently, we're only doing those types of things for like auditors, so if we need to send a whole bunch of records to United Healthcare, then we're doing it through the bot, it goes in there and it pulls it out. And not every site can do this yet, but we're working on it. Some of the bigger facilities that have like Epic or Cerner, those are the first two EMRs, the most important ones that they already are doing, using this. Now, mind you, not every site wants to do it. It's up to the client. We do try to sell it because honestly, it's to everyone's benefit. Number one, you take the patient factor out, the employee factor out. The human person doesn't, make the errors. It allows those people to focus more on customer service, which is those patients walking in, those telephone people, those attorneys needing to have those records tomorrow, so the personal touch is better because we're not busy wasting our time on filling United Healthcare MRA audits, so we're not doing it for everything. At least not right now, but I bet you, I'm going to tell you, in the future, it's going to come down to where it's going to be more and more. And it's not just PsyOx, it's going to be across, everywhere.
So you mentioned, because I do teach the soft skills courses and everything, and this customer service piece, this is giving us time to be more focused on the soft skills amongst the employees and customers.
Yes.
So that's where you're finding there's a lot of importance right now in keeping our employees on board.
Yeah. And they can get kind of cranky at work too. We got people, especially, and through COVID, this was one of the things. Through COVID, everybody was very rattled. Our employees were too, if they could get to work. But people calling, they'd be disgruntled. And you can't teach customer service. But if we can at least take some of the pressure off of them of not having to do all the processing, that's their focal point. And my thing is, if you don't know customer service, you don't have any reason being in this position. So would PsyOx help? Because that's our number one job. It isn't processing release of information request. It's taking care of our patients, our clients, our requesters, social. We actually are the face of many of the facilities that we work in. That's where patients go after they've been seen. And if they've had a really bad experience with the hospital, maybe, they didn't feel like they got the attention. If we have really good service when they come to see us, it at least kind of takes the edge off. But on the other switch, if they have great, service while they're in the hospital and we treat them, horribly, they're going to say, oh my goodness, I'm never going back to that facility. So, I preach customer service all the time. But anyway, so back to trust and inspire. I highly recommend that you do some research of your own, or even, get with your department heads and say, how can we, get people more on board, engage them, because it's really something that you're going to need to do. They don't want to be managed, they want to be led. And sometimes you have to do the work to show them how you want them to do the work, which I'm the first one to push up my sleeves and dig in. I work weekends, I'm salary, I don't get paid overtime, but I never let my employees ask of them what I'm not willing to give. So it's a sacrifice sometimes. Generally, I can work remotely, which is nice, but I'm always on Teams, like, hey, Sandy, I have a question about this subpoena. It doesn't matter what time of day, for the most part. I'm married to my job, but I'm good with that because we have a good relationship. We'll go ahead and move. So what's changed? Yeah. Oh, there's a lot of it. It says real good question, but it's real good questions because it's a lot of it. I'm going to say, from my perspective, it was COVID that really opened our eyes and really caused our first challenges. But why? But the government was giving out money, and a lot of the people that were getting that money were younger people who had small children. They didn't have to work because they were getting money to stay home. I had multiple people who could only work maybe 12 hours a week. They were 40-hour-a-week people. I still had work to do, but I couldn't make them come to work. I just couldn't. They got paid whatever, $600 a week to sit at home, plus their 12 hours that they were working for us. And why would they come to work when they had little ones, even if they didn't really have to babysit them themselves? It was a government thing. So anyway, something that I have added here is the generation differences. Well, we all know that is probably our biggest challenge. If all of us were the same people that were in the workforce and we had gone through everything that we've gone through, we wouldn't really have changed that much. At least I don't think. But as leaders, we have to, so we don't have an option. But this is kind of something I just threw together. So look at the generations and find where you are in here. I'm not going to tell where I am, but I'm somewhere in the middle, and I was really shocked to find out that my children all kind of fall into the millennials. And honestly, after COVID, they have real determined attitudes. They know what they want in life. And my youngest daughter, I'm shocked at how stern and matter-of-fact she is, even with me sometimes. Like, well, no, we don't want people to come to the house on Wednesday, but if you want to come visit, you can come on Thursday. They're very sure of what they want, and they kind of command it.
And that goes over to the workforce too.
Yes, ma'am, absolutely, 100%. So what do? I'm not going to argue with my daughter and have a cause for like, well, no, Katie, I'm coming on Wednesday. I'm going to figure out how I'm going to accommodate us both. Okay, well, Thursday works for me, but can I stay until Monday? That kind of thing. But I mean, it's interesting because what I learned in May with that Trust and Inspire, leadership launch, I've been able to use with my own child, because I was kind of beginning to say, holy cow, whose kid is that? I didn't raise her. That's not how I raised my child, because she used to be so, easygoing, not really push back. She pushes back a lot, which has been a real good trick for me because I have employees that push back too. So, I can't complain. But anyway.
I have a question. So what are you doing when somebody's like, well, that 40-hour week just doesn't work with me? Because you got to look at your budget too, your payroll budget. And so are you like filling one 40-hour job with 3 people? I mean, because then, benefits go up there and just everything in line with that. I mean, I understand what you're saying, and there has to be that compromise, but in the end, here's the job that needs to be done. And we have this amount of time to do it. So how far do you flex on that?
Well, we have HR who, the biggest thing is, if you can't do it for one, you can't do it for anybody. Or if you do it for one, you have to do it for everyone, right? And we all have that. We do have a lot of people who are saying, well, I need special circumstances because now I've gone to school. So every Thursday I need to get off at 3 o'clock. Well, yeah, but I need you till 5. So we see if we can accommodate it. If we can't accommodate it, we are honest and say we can't accommodate that. You know, honestly, this position is an 8 to 5. If you can't fill it, we can see if we've got some other place to put you. But if not, then, you know, we can break ties. But yeah, you're right, because we do that a lot. And it's more and more. I've lost people because they said, we're not flexible enough. Well, for crying out loud, we have customer service. We have hours of an open position where we need to have a chair in there. We have contracts with our clients saying that we're going to do this. Yeah.
There's no time on when somebody gets sick or falls.
Exactly.
Or whatever.
You guys have no idea how many times I've gotten a phone call either the night before or the next morning. Hey, I don't have any employees at a site. So I'm stopping and running, you know, because I'm going to go cover myself. That's all I can do, to do the best that I can. HR had told me I needed to let a team member, her grandfather passed away, but I only had 2 people. Her grandfather passed away, I already had somebody on PTO. Well, I was trying to see if she could move it a day ahead so that we could have the coverage we needed, because girl would be back. And they turned around and said, you have to let her go. I'm thinking, okay, but I don't have any employees there. You know, and that was in Mobile. So I had to drive from Crestview, Florida to Mobile, which I did it. But, you know, the whole point of it is they don't, HR, love you guys, okay? That's your job. I would never want it. But I sometimes don't want mine either, you know, just because of the challenges that we all face.
Right.
Well, and I have a client that has like a bunch of coaches over all their employees. And just yesterday, they were saying the coaches are worried, they're almost scared to be these coaches over the Generation Z and the millennials. He said, because we just don't know how to relate to them.
Fear of a
So
lawsuit.
you've got the middle managers that are now being asked to be coaches over everyone, and 2 or 3 people, but they're saying how they are doesn't make any sense to us. We don't know how to coach them because the way they think, we so cannot relate to their thoughts. And it's just very things like this. Well, we'll only show up when we need to, and very important responsibility jobs. These are not like McDonald's people.
I know.
That, you know, flip hamburgers. This is a very technical job, and these coaches are going, we're afraid to even offer to do this because we don't know how to relate to this and what to say. So what would you say to those folks?
Lean on HR.
Created this mess.
I know.
What was that?
Our generation created this mess,
I don't think I agree with that.
but we continue to allow it and accommodate it.
But do you think we could stop it if we had wanted to?
It's too far gone now.
Well, and I agree with that too. Right.
It's gone to where we're accommodating for every little thing, and so we like this one.
Yeah. SIOX now has an attendance policy. We were, because SIOX had been several littler, you know, smaller facilities, and then we all merged together. So we really didn't have a cohesive attendance policy for all of our team members. Now we have one. So when Susie Q calls me and says, I'm not coming to work today, I'm sick. I'm just like, oh gosh, I'm so sorry, I hope you feel better. Back in the day, it was like, you need to go to the doctor and then get into work because we have work to do, right, you guys? Well, and even that, I was kind of like, okay, I'll sign it myself, you know, whatever. But I'm just saying, we have changed how we do things. So the attendance policy, they'll be out the door. We just had to let somebody go because of attendance. And they cried. Well, they get 4 write-ups before they get to that last, you know, hey, you're out the door. And it's kind of like, oh, but could I have one more chance? What can I do to stay? Well, you could have done that, you know, whatever.
So they do understand the importance of it.
And they wanted their job.
It's really there.
Yeah. I was shocked when they implemented the attendance policy. I'm like, I'm going to not have any employees by the end of the year because everybody had gotten to where it's like, I don't want to come to work. I do say they're much better with the attendance policy being as strict as it is compared to not really having one, other than I made my own because I needed employees. When they call me and say that, I'm like, oh my gosh, so, you know, do you have a babysitter? Is there somebody else, you know, because even their kids, you know, can someone else watch your child? Because we really need you, we won't have anybody at work. Well, no, I gotta do it. So, okay, so there I go, you know, to go cover that site. But yeah, our challenges are crazy, you know, so get with your department heads. If you have department heads, think about how you can help get people more engaged. Because guess what, an engaged employee is gonna come to work. An unengaged employee is gonna say, you know, I didn't sleep well last night. You know, I woke up at 6 a.m. and I didn't want to get up till 6:30, so I'm not going to work today because I'm tired, you know, or something like that. But anyway, so yeah, find out where you fit into this because this is interesting. This is kind of important information, in my opinion, about the differences in the generations. And as we get further down, you're going to see where some of that kind of came from, where our kids are today, where our younger crowd is today. And I'll have several of those for you, Brenda. So that's just the beginning. And you guys, Google has everything, okay? Google it. I'm the Google queen, mostly from my transcription years. So here's the baby boomer, which I have to say I'm kind of in there, but barely, thank goodness. But still, Generation X. And there's different ones on the internet. They don't all have this exact same something, but for the most part, I'm gonna guess many of our people are here that work for us as our frontline employees, as leaders more or less here, and even into here. But I mean, for the most part, this is where a lot of them are. So, their values are different. What's important to them is different. They weren't the children who went outside and played until the lights went, outside lights came on. They're the kids who sat behind their video games and played, but they're smart.
Because when you look at the millennial, it's towards the end when the internet came into play.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Because when I got started in, recruiting 33 years ago, the internet didn't exist.
Yeah.
It did not start coming about. My daughter was born in 1994, and I started working from home 6 months after she was born, and then AOL came about.
Oh, wow. AOL, yeah.
So, but that's when the shift started. Because then, as kids were born after that and got into the Y and Z, the next one,
Mm-hmm.
all they knew was instant gratification with the internet and cell phones and everything like that. So therein lies, the other part of the challenge. I've often said to, many different teacher groups and things like that, I've got an undergrad in elementary education. They always harp, no cell phones in schools, no cell phones in schools. And I challenge teachers, do your whole class on the cell phone and see what kind of reaction you get. Or see what kind of response.
Mm-hmm.
When you say come to that level, but yet then there's got to be that nice combination here.
Right.
Almost like let them loose, let them run it for a day or a month and see what happens.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
That would be interesting.
So one of the things that I've seen is during COVID, we saw a reduction in folks 50, even above 50, that wanted to continue to be in the workforce. And I know years ago people would retire very late. How have you seen that impact the workforce? You don't have more senior folks, so you're having to recruit different folks. So how has that impacted the workforce?
I'm going to be honest, it doesn't really impact me, so I don't know that answer. Some of you may already have that answer, but I don't, because as a general rule, I'm hiring entry-level people. Mind you, I'm sure SciOx has that as an issue, meaning, regional managers or vice president of operations, they may have those challenges. Typically, we, kind of pull from within, people who are ready for that next step. So generally, we're still pulling in for that entry-level position. We used to call it entry-level. It's not entry-level anymore, because McDonald's isn't even entry-level anymore. It's crazy,
I saw a lot when workforce started coming back after COVID, clients and stuff that I called on, I saw a lot of people, they had the opportunity during the time that they were at home to have that moment and kind of really reevaluate. And I saw so many of my clients, mic dropping it, I'm done. I have one client that went from something he had been in for his entire career, 180 it, and now he has a pressure washing business, and so it really allowed them, certain generations that were mindful enough to really look at themselves, look where they were, what was important because of so many lost loved ones, and that's crucial in healthcare because early on in my career, I was there. I was finding purple squirrels all the time with physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech. I always had more jobs than I did people. And so I can only imagine how much more crucial it is now because they are so overworked, so overspent to begin with, and then let's add COVID on top. So I saw many people just, I'm out, I'm done. I'm done.
The average age of the worker continues to go down.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So, I think that's interesting.
Right. forgot where I was going with that, but when you think about these people, when they get into the workforce, how different is it going to be from where we are even today? So any of us who are planning to continue to be in leadership, management, we're gonna have to figure out how to move with the flow, go with that. So it's definitely gonna be a bit of a challenge. So yeah. Think about this, remember the internet-related issues where, there was a lot of cyberbullying and all of that stuff. But we have 2-year-olds sitting in their grocery cart on a computer and either listening to something. Oh, but you know what? They know what they're doing. Little kid can pick up the phone. Hey, can you fix this? Oh, here you go. 5-year-old. I'm kind of like, oh my goodness. But they're so smart. When I would ask my kids, I couldn't even work my TV. Okay, this is like, how do I get it back to this channel? And I'd have to call them because they fixed it. They set it up for me. I don't even have a clue. I don't even know how to use one of these because, isn't that usually, never mind, that wasn't nice.
It's an IT person.
It's usually somebody above my pay grade, meaning, the kids are the ones who really own this, not me. But anyway, so I wanted to share with you guys about how important it is that we think about where these people fit in because the groups, people are different. We have a lot more people with anxiety right now, so where did that come from? All of a sudden, everybody's got anxiety, especially younger groups. And I think a lot of that comes from watching the news, the negative, the COVID, their internet, everything is constantly moving. There's no calmness in their lives. So anxiety is definitely very prevalent in today's younger, not just younger, a lot of older people have it too, and maybe we didn't really know it. But today everybody seems to have, I've got such bad anxiety. And I just take a deep breath and say, oh goodness, well, you're creating some for me right now. So, but anyway.
We got a pill for that.
Oh, can we put it in the water? Okay, that's the question.
Yeah.
Cheers, so yeah. But any questions on any of that or anybody have anything, hindsight into what your challenges are, which you can share with somebody that works for you?
Well, you bring up an interesting point, Sandy, with that Gen Alpha. And when you think about, handing a 3-year-old your phone and they can I'm looking at it from the brainwave perspective. At that age, what is going on in their brain that they can figure it out without any sort of verbal instruction? So, are the brains more advanced than anybody has ever given us credit for? Because it's kind of interesting with nonverbal, they can figure it out.
I know, they can't even talk yet.
Yeah.
Half the time, it's crazy.
Yeah.
But remember back in high school, and we have a different assortment of ages here, but if you think back in high school, I can remember that in this year, we should be flying cars, okay? We have people in spacesuits, so that, it was kind of like, I want one of those.
Yeah.
I'm lucky my car can almost park itself because I can't park worth a darn, so the cars are really cool, but we're not flying them yet.
Right.
So nobody wants to see me do that. I do have a broom though, and I use it regularly, so I can drive a stick. Anyway, how do successful leaders build trust with their people? There's a lot of different ways, truly. And it isn't a cut and dry, but there's a lot of options. And I highly recommend that you get the book, a book, it doesn't matter which one, but you look up a book, kind of search it up, as this 3-year-old says, he calls it, just search it up. And I'm thinking, what does that mean? Google everything. They do it through their TV too. So, as a leader, we have to make sure that we're doing all of these things, first of all, that we want our team members to do. We don't want to tell them a big story, so you got to be honest. These are important key points. I don't need to read them out to you guys, but I'm just saying that is practice what you preach, but you have to walk the walk. We've always had to do that, right, though? But you can't turn around and go back to your department heads and say, but we're not really going to do it, okay? We're just telling them that we're doing it because credibility, they're going to figure that out anyway. And these young people, they are smart little whippersnappers. I don't know what to do with them. But for me, they know I'm honest and true and sometimes transparent to a fault. And I tell them that, I sometimes can be. Would SIOC say it's okay for me or my company say it's okay for me to tell my employees something that I've heard? If they don't say, don't tell them, I'm going to tell them. Because it's their company too. It's their work. It's their lives. It impacts all of us. But in addition to these, there's quite a few other ones. So Here's one. You guys, I won the Grammy Award for this one several times already because when you get the same person over and over again who has the same issue over and over again, I'm gonna give one little instance. During COVID, when people had to stay home with their children, they were allowed to do that. I mean, we had no choice but to say, okay. Well, I had a man as an employee. He had a senior in high school. So he called me one day and he says, I gotta stay home. I gotta keep my baby. I'm like, what do you mean keep your baby? You've got a 12th grader. He goes, oh, well, no, I have a 5-year-old. I'm like, when did you get a 5-year-old? And so it's a significant other's child, but he turned around and went to HR on me because he said that, that I was, oh man, what did he say? I hurt his feelings. First of all, I'm just like, oh God. So HR wanted me to apologize. You know what I did? Because I thought, hold on a second. I apologized that your feelings were hurt. I didn't say I apologize that I did it. Because I thought, come on, 40-year-old man, grow up. I had no idea you had a 5-year-old. You could have said, but no, but this is mine, whatever. Instead, I gotta be out today because I have a 5-year-old to watch. Like, oh my goodness. So empathy, you guys, what can you do? Except just say, I understand. I hope you feel better, or whatever the case is, because it's not going to change. It's just because you say, well, goodness, you were just out last week too. They're not going to come in because you said that. So, all of these things are very important. And then again, that one, because when, people come to work every day, you think that paycheck is what makes them feel good about coming to work every day? It isn't. Not anymore. Not since COVID, where they can get free money. And heaven knows, I don't know where people get to pay their bills and buy food, because there's so many people out there that are looking for jobs for months and months, even that I'm interviewing. And they're like, well, I'm just looking. Like, oh, so maybe you don't really want to. Yes, X is more like it, So you have to kind of pull them in and let them know how much you appreciate them being there, And you can say it till you're blue, You can say the same thing over again. I really appreciate everything you do every day. I say that a lot, but I have to show them. So by showing them, you can be creative with that one, whether or not it's pizza parties or buy donuts, or as simple as a little notepad that, a sticky note and say, hey, thanks for being here today. It goes a long way with the people, it really does. And it gives me chill bumps, because I've had people come and say, that really made my day, that you just called me to check on me. I actually keep an Excel spreadsheet now, so that when I talk to some people, I have 45 people. Wow. You have people that you talk to every day because that's business, right? Then I have remote people that work from home that I don't have to deal with unless there's a problem. Yeah, that's a problem, okay? Because now all of a sudden I'm the problem. Oh, she's so mean. Well, I'm really not. So you know what? I pick up the phone, they're probably thinking, oh my God, it's Sandy. They don't want to answer, but they answer. I know, right? What does she want now? What did I do? In fact, they answer that. What did I do? But they don't do that anymore, because I call just randomly. And I make sure I have the Excel spreadsheet for myself. So I know when I've called them, like, gosh, I haven't talked to Carlissa in a month. I need to call her. She's my remote employee, and actually in Jacksonville. So she's going to be having that storm coming through. So I'll be calling her later today just to say, okay, did you make it to? She's going to Orlando. Those are things, if you, whatever type of, work you do, however, do what?
She's going into the storm if she's going to Orlando.
Well, apparently she's in a flood zone, but yeah, she said she's going to Orlando. We'll see if she made it there. But I think the biggest thing that I can do, too, is to be appreciative. But then too, team huddles sometimes work. If you guys can do that, we do team huddles. I have a meeting with all of my employees every Tuesday at 3:00. My ask is that you be there. My boss has said, do you make it mandatory? And I'm like, no, sir. Because guess what? I'm going to be disappointed if I make it mandatory. What I need to do is make it fun and engaging so that they want to be on it. So I'm sharing, any news that they need to hear, but I'm also sharing fun stuff. I do fun facts. I have my area supervisor is, quote, Chief Meteorologist Chris. She's not really a chief meteorologist, but she's the one who always checks the tropics. We live in a place where we need to know. And even if it's December, well, you guys, it's going to get cold, So make sure you.
Sandy, with all of this stuff that, obviously, again, during COVID, it kind of brought everything into, reassessing and everything. So all this extra stuff, you're keeping a spreadsheet to keep track of everything, all this extra stuff. Do you feel like it's made you a more effective and better manager?
100% yes.
Okay.
And I'll tell you why. Because I can't remember when I talked to an employee, but I need to engage with them. They need to know that I'm there to support them. Hey, do you need anything? Even if that's as little as it is. I may be looking at production numbers and say, man, their production was really low last week. What's going on? You know, different than normal. So I don't call them and say, hey, why is your production down? I call them and say, hey, how are you? You know, you okay? Do you need anything? And a lot of times they'll open it up and tell you, and then you can, so we're kind of counselors. You know, we all know that too. We have a lot of different positions roles that we play in our careers every day, but the main thing is definitely reach out and touch your people. If you have a big group, like I do, I have, 2 supervisors. Some of those employees kind of roll up underneath them, but they all roll up underneath me, and I need to reach out to every single one of them. Not every day, maybe not even every week, but for me, the Excel spreadsheet has helped me to say, when did I've missed somebody. So I can look at it. I don't always keep it up to date, because a lot of times I do my conversations in my mobile office, which is my little car out back. So that's my mobile office, because people say, well, where is your office? I'm like, it's wherever my car takes me. Wherever the GPS is headed, that's my office. I do have office at home in my home office in Crestview, so it's in my home. But typically I'm in the car, at least 4 hours a day.
Can you back up well, you don't have to back up. The last slide at the end, it said about being honest. So you don't need to back it up, because I know technology, I wouldn't know how to back that thing up either. So, but it talked about being honest. So it sounds like you're doing that trust and inspiring, but I bet you're honest with people when something really needs to get done, and you do reward them and everything for that to celebrate. But I think whoever did that, thank you. But that piece of honesty about, hey guys, if we don't get this done, this is actually what I see, the big picture. You don't have the big picture. We're gonna be in a world of hurt if we don't get on top of this. I just want to let you know. So I think that probably, along with the trust and being kind to them and all of that, I bet you're being honest is really helping you.
Because they need to know why. You can ask somebody, hey, go pick up your toys. Why? 3-year-olds will say, why? Well, but it's the same thing, honestly. Yeah. So sometimes it's because my leader is telling me we need to get this stuff,
So they feel a part of it too, and like they're,
Mm-hmm. You don't tell them to do them.
Their work is being, appreciated because they can see the bigger good.
Yeah. And you ask them, hey, you guys, can we? Let's do this. You don't say do this. You say, hey, I need your help. Can you help me? And a lot of times they're a lot happier to help you than it is if you turn around and say, okay, I need you to do this. It's your job. If you have any questions, read your job description. And at the bottom it says, and everything else assigned. Pardon me?
That generation wants to know the bigger picture too, and how they fit into the bigger picture, and where their contribution is being,
Yeah.
But we never we've always been told, you'll get to know when you get to know.
Yeah.
They're demanding that they.
Yeah.
But we have, like budgets. We all have budgets. Well, we're paying a lot of overtime. And I know you guys are too, because we don't have enough people to cover what we need to cover. So we're paying a lot of overtime. That's costing us a lot of money. But we have to in order to get the work done, because we have contracts that we have to be able to meet. And a lot of times, I'm just free labor on the weekends, but I don't mind doing that. So a little bit really quick, because I know we're kind of getting short on time. Here's some ways to inspire your teams. If you can kind of run through those. The secret to inspiring is to know the ingredients of the people that you're working with. And a lot of times that's our younger crowd, okay? It's the people who they want to feel engaged. They want to feel like they're part of the answer, not just told what they need to do, okay, to get to the bottom line. They want to say, hey, Sandy, what do you think? How do you think we should do this? Do you have do you guys have any ideas? Because believe it or not, I'm not smart. I'm not the smartest one in the crowd. Those kids, younger people, teach me something every day. And one of it is that they think outside the box better than I do. I have an area supervisor. She and I are like night and day. I'm Miss Mary Sunshine. Everybody calls me Mighty Mouse. And I know that's kind of like, little, and I call her Wonder Woman, and it's because I wonder about that woman. But she's a very stern, even-keeled, great trainer. She never smiles. Well, I have a hard time wiping the smile off my face because I woke up this morning. But the whole point of it is that we kind of play off of each other. And so I can get things done when she maybe can't. So utilize whatever you can, whoever you can. And if you work for companies, I highly recommend that you get your department heads together and talk about some of the stuff of, whatever, inspire your teams. How do you do that? I didn't know either. And I'm still learning a lot. And even you guys have taught me some stuff by the conversation that we've had. So, my thought on this is do what you can. And then I have a few more slides just to share really quick so that you can see. Learning, not just lecturing. Of course, we don't do lectures very well anymore. Everything needs to be, if I was standing up here and you guys were not in part of this, you wouldn't get anything out of it either, and I wouldn't either. So, other than me just lecturing. I'm not here to lecture, I'm here to learn actually myself. So, you wouldn't believe how many of our young people have the ideas that we would have never thought to have. And so they have a lot to bring to our workforces, to our teams, to how we do business, a lot of those different things. We may have to teach them still about customer service because sometimes they can be a little edgy, meaning they're not the sweet, oh yeah, sure, no problem. Let me tell you how I can help you. They're just like, I can't help you. I'm like, okay, you got to tell them how you can though, because otherwise that's just there, So that's part of the little bit of a, being on site, doing some, team. Yeah. Oh yeah, well, at least I do have some of that. Anyway, we'll go on ownership. That one's a big one. So you guys give them the ownership of what they're doing. Let them feel like it's something that they decide they wanted to do. So hopefully in all of your things, they have the opportunity to be noticed that they're growing so that they can, move on to the next step. Not just fit in with everybody else. Real quick, you must be the change you wish to see in the world. That was from Gandhi. I just thought I would share that. And then thanks you guys for having me today. This was awesome,
Thank you.
Thank you.